misses it, it will be available on our Facebook page tomorrow. So I'm Izzy Lynch. I'm the program director for Protect Our Winters Canada, and have been working with Greg on coordinating this challenge over the last few months. And it's been a really amazing experience so far. We've been really excited to see everyone's enthusiasm and the changes people are making. So thank you all for participating. I am going to hand it off to Greg. We'll have about a 45-minute presentation as usual, and then we will open the floor for questions for our presenter, Irie. So please enjoy and let us know if you have any questions at the end. Thanks so much. Greg, take it away.
Hey everyone, challengers, good to see you here. Thanks for joining. Hopefully the plastic month has been interesting for you, because it's a challenging one. I've got some of my plastic here, and it's just growing as it does. And as much as you can refuse, you always get to these situations where you really question what you can really do. And I think it'll be great to have Irie speak in a bit, because she basically, you'll see in a year, she had like this tiny little jar of plastic, and I'm really curious to see how she did it, because for me, I've got certain things that I love, like Doritos, and as much as I clean and recycle these, I know that it'd be much better to refuse, but it's hard to refuse Doritos. But on that note, it's what I really do think all of us should do is anytime we can invest or buy from a company that's doing well with their packaging, and that it's well worth it, because we encourage it. I mean, I don't know if you guys have tried these. I've tried True Earth, and to me, they're pretty good. You can also get boxes with just the straight up powder in it. And that's another way, because you start looking in your laundry rooms and there's jug after jug after jug. And just those little things, supporting those companies is really good. I mean, all my toiletries are just, this is more Habitat, which is also Pella. It's a deodorant. I actually don't use it, but I probably should. But, we do have these options. And I think that especially now is more and more that if we can help those companies grow, then we're going to really help it. Here's my phone case. It's compostable, and when you see their website, there's 6 billion phone cases made every year, because they have to make extras for all the different sizes, and then they just all go into the dump at the end of the year, pretty much. So just buying this, this little, it's made of something biodegradable. It feels better. So I think anytime we can take those choices, we need to, especially us that are trying to think about this. And it's really hard to always refuse. So then can we reduce a bit? And I mean, I look at my bag of plastic here, and there's definitely a few things that I could have said no to, but it's hard. So for me, the more we can help companies that are trying to change the way, like I work with Arc'teryx, I work with Solomon, and they over the last bunch of years are finally having less plastic in their packaging. And I constantly email them to be like, hey, let's get rid of this. And a cool company, I know the owner of Aritzia, and it's a big online company, and all his stuff it comes in paper, and it's so much better. When you get it in the mail, you get it in cardboard, and you're like, wow, this is better. At least this is gonna biodegrade. Sure, it's not perfect, but at least it's gonna do something. Where you get something from Bikini Village, which I obviously didn't buy, but like it's all just plastic, and it's incredible. So anytime you can, when you're researching companies, if you see that their packaging is better, then let's just shop through them. And that's the funny time now, is basically so much is online shopping. So if we can encourage the good companies, that's awesome. And the same thing I posted the other day about my food stuff, and right now, to support local restaurants, there's only one thing we can do, and that's takeout. And there's only some that I like to do because they come in the appropriate packaging. Kevin's Kitchen, I like to go to them, and I bring my own Tupperwares or wherever so they can put it in that, but that's a little tough. But yeah, basically there's all these choices, and we just have to try to do the best we can. And I'm really curious to get Irie on the floor here. She can tell us her story, and then just so you know, we're going to make it a little bit informal. She's going to go on a bit of a talk, but then we're going to do a Q&A with her to just kind of peer into her mind and figure out all the things she did, because she really dedicated her year, and then since then her life, to being a lot better with plastics. So without further ado, we'll bring Irie on, and she can tell us her story, and we can learn how to be better.
Thanks, Greg. Hey, everyone. I'm Irie, and for the last 2.5, almost 3 years, I've lived completely zero waste, other than everything that fits into this jar and the 2 other ones that I have from the years before. It's about 500 milliliters. I think this one's a little bit smaller, although I may have to upgrade again to a bigger one as this one's getting quite full. I started this project in grade 12 as kind of like we had to do a year-long grade 12 project for school. And I was on the mountain and there was like this huge sign that said reduce waste by 2020 or whatever, like zero waste, everything on the mountain. It's like, that's so cool. And I walked around the side of the restaurant and there was this huge pile of garbage sitting there. And I was like, oh, is this what like zero waste to landfill means? They're just not going to send their waste to landfill? So I went on the internet and started researching a bunch. And my aunt had showed me this one woman who got her entire family of 4 people to become zero waste. And they had maybe like 4 pieces of garbage in a jar. And I was like, holy cow, that's so cool. I can do that. So I spent the entire year trying to figure out ways to not eat chocolate and Doritos, which is also one of my favorite chips and is such a pain not to be able to buy like every day. But yeah, just like walking through the grocery store, learning to dehydrate my own foods, making my own toothpaste, granola bars. And I find a lot of the time it's about less about like what can be recycled and where everything goes and more about reducing, but also more about alternatives. So sometimes it's really hard to reduce all of those things that you like chocolate and chips and everything like that. I find the best way to do it is to find the alternatives. So buying all the ingredients, and if you have time, making your own chocolate. So like getting the cocoa powder from the zero waste stores and the milk and all of that stuff, as opposed to just thinking about like, oh, dang it, I can't have that, and just getting super down because it's, and I spent my entire first zero waste year being like, oh, this is stupid. I can't have chocolate and I can't have this and I can't have that. And then as time went on, I realized, well, I can have that. I just have to learn to make it myself or find it from different companies and do a little more research. So sometimes it is a bit more effort and takes a bit more time, but I definitely think it's 110% more worth it almost, because at the end of the day, I've got all of these snacks that I've made sitting there. I'm like, oh my goodness, this granola bar I made myself. It's 10 times better. And yeah, it's been interesting 3 years. Lots of ups and downs. It's definitely not easy, especially if you look in my jar, which is way too full for my liking at this time of year. I would say probably 75% is these things right here, which are receipts. And there was one grocery store in town who was doing compostable receipts. I was so stoked, like a kid on Christmas, and then they stopped doing them, and now my jar is full of them again. And so that's one thing that's been super difficult. But if you guys have any questions too, feel free to
Aren't those paper?
Receipts are paper, but they have a layer of BPA plastic on them. So it's like the tiny plastic particles on the paper. And because of how small they are and how close they are with the paper, they can't actually be recycled into separate plastic paper type thing. So it does have to go in the garbage, unfortunately, which is a huge pain. Oh yeah, Megan.
Yeah, go for it.
Aubrey has a question.
How do you make your own toothpaste?
Oh, that's a great question. It's a very interesting way. It's probably not very similar to what you would use at home. It's 2 tablespoons of coconut oil and 1 tablespoon of baking soda. And then you can add your own like mint essential oils if you want to make it a little bit more to your liking. But it definitely did take some getting used to because it's very salty. It's like a little bit like tasting ocean water every time you brush your teeth. Thought about the issue regarding plastic waste. Thoughts on growing our own
Take your pick.
vegetables. Thoughts about the issue regarding plastic waste. Oh, I did. I recently just watched that Seaspiracy movie and I was shocked because I did so many, I think I did probably at least 3 projects in high school about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, and everything I found was like straws and what were the other ones? Plastics from your garbage and all this, and nothing about fishing nets or anything. And then I watched that movie and my mind was blown. Like, it makes a lot of sense just because of the size of the fishing industry and the size of those nets, like how much space they would take up. But it's definitely, and this is just my own personal thing, but I've been put off fish just every time I think about it, depending on where I go. But like that movie changed. And I put off watching it just because I knew that was gonna happen. And I love fish so much. So I was like, nah, don't watch it. Don't watch it. You won't have to think about it. But yeah, it's crazy. Thoughts on growing our own vegetables indoors? I think that's super cool. It's definitely something I thought about and wanted to do. I don't have a very green finger. Most of the plants that my mom tries to give me for my house have died. Although I would love to get more into reading books on vegetables, and anybody who has any tips on that, that'd be awesome. I haven't done a whole lot of research on that though, Melvin. I'd love to look more into that. Easiest way to find local zero waste manufacturers, suppliers. I've done a lot of research just like looking them up. If you live anywhere near the sea to sky, there's a bunch in Vancouver. So there's Nada, which is a great zero waste store. They've got a huge variety of like meats, cheeses, dairy products, bulk baking stuff, bulk dried fruits, veg, all of that. It's such a great store. I go there probably every single time I go to Vancouver. The soap dispenser is also a really good one. That's where I get all of my deodorants, shampoos, conditioners, although I would like to try and make those one day when I have enough time and money for error, as I'm sure it will probably take a few tries to get it perfectly right. But yeah, there's lots of blogs as well that say like top 10 zero waste companies in the world. And you can find super cool t-shirts that are made out of bamboo and trees and all these really cool things. So I hope that answers your question, Melvin. Any strategies you could share for living a zero waste lifestyle? Yes, Hannah, I've recently been doing that this year as I'm in school. I took 4 courses through UVic and was also doing a bit of work, so my budget was quite low. Basically, just I did a lot of canning of like fruits and vegetables, and then dehydrating all of that. So I recently went on a trip with Jessa Gilbert, who said that if you take like the canned pineapple and then put it in the dehydrator for like 10 hours or whatever, it creates like the perfect snack. And that's like aluminum is recyclable 100% of the time with 100% like the quality doesn't go down like paper and plastic. So it's a really good, anytime I'm in doubt or don't have enough money, I normally go to cans and stuff because you get like 10 pineapples for $2. Chuck them in the dehydrator and you've got snacks for a week, and it's pretty awesome. Same with chickpeas as well. Make little chickpea chips are really, really awesome. Thinking about the Just Vertical. I actually haven't heard of Just Vertical. What is that? Is it like
That's for indoor growing of vegetables in your house.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so it's like a little light system to grow your own things.
I'm gonna
I
write.
haven't known anybody that's done it. I'd be curious because the ads look really good.
Yeah. I'm gonna look that up after. That's sick. Eric, what would be a good alternative for garbage from the garbage bins? I'm not too sure about the plastic bags in the garbage bins. I know that we used to, before I started doing the zero waste and I was living at home, sometimes we'd use leftover plastic bags from like other grocery shops if we had them. Like if nobody had brought their reusable bags and we had to get one, then we'd use that as a garbage bag instead of buying them. Or if you want to use a paper bag maybe instead of recycling it, although I'm not too sure. If anybody has any ideas on the plastic garbage bags, maybe even just putting it in the bin and then checking it out. I'm not too familiar on that.
I'm not too familiar. There's definitely options for bags that do compost. They're just like most things, they're not as perfect as plastic and as strong, but there's definitely you can in Save On. I know there's a box that you can buy there that's compostable garbage bags.
Sweet. And that breaks down in the garbage dump, like when it's there?
Well, it's one of those weird things where compostable's got that thing where it's like compostable in a 200-degree commercial, not versus your backyard or the dump. So it's
Yeah, fair.
better, but not a lot better.
Yeah, for sure. Some alternatives are a step up, but not a whole flight of stairs.
Yeah.
Just got a veggie home. Just add water and nutrient solution. Sent by. What's a veggie home? That sounds awesome. Just add water and nutrient solution. So that's like a garden in your home, Kevin?
Can you hear me?
Veggie home? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so it's like a mini hydroponic setup. So it has like 8 slots. You pop the seeds in, or the little. I can probably actually show you guys real quick.
Yeah, I think we'd all be curious. I've been wondering how productive those really are.
Mine's been about 5 weeks, I think. Hold on a second.
That's pretty sick.
Can you guys see that?
Oh, what?
Yeah.
And what kind of plants do you have growing there?
Bok choy.
Oh, bok choy, kale. My basil's getting kind of eclipsed by some other stuff. I think I put too many in to start. It's my first round. So bok choy, mini tomato plant at the back, over here.
Pretty awesome.
So I think it's got 9 slots. Probably should have put half of them in, not all of them in, I think. But it was like $100. Came with, I think 5, and I bought another 4 packs, and then 2 come each pack. I'll show you the packs.
That's sweet.
So the packs come in this like, sorry, you guys can't see that at all. Packs come
Good.
in
I'm sure
this, like,
a few of us are interested in it, Kevin. Cool.
I'll post a link to their stuff in the chat. Yeah.
That's sweet. Wow.
And then that's what the seed pod looks like. So it's plastic though too. So I don't know. It's not 100%, but it's pretty cool.
That's a super cool idea though. I'd never even heard of that. Maybe I've been living under a bit of a rock.
I'll post a link.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. Thank you.
No problem.
Going back, Tina, was it challenging for you? Answering Tina's question, yes, it was very challenging. For some reason, I thought that not having any practice leading up to my start date was going to be fine, and I was just going to become zero waste all of a sudden. But I started October 1st for my school project. And leading up, I was like, okay, I'm just going to eat as much chocolate and chips and whatever I can have as possible so that I don't miss it at all. And then October 1st came, and it was like this. I had to just break all those habits. The first, I think, week, I had maybe 4 or 5 things in my jar already, which isn't too much for a normal, like a regular garbage week. Normally I'd be putting those in 4 or 5 things a day, but it was still like I was super disappointed in myself because I was like, this should be easy. I should have nothing in here. This woman with her 2 kids and her husband, I've got like 3 things for 5 years or whatever. So it definitely took some getting used to, and I think I had to learn to be nicer to myself about it and give myself a bit of leeway, as opposed to every time I put something in there being like, oh, you failed, you put something in your jar. You're supposed to be zero waste, you're not supposed to have anything. But definitely there are some things that, as like receipts, that you just can't really avoid. Pretty easy from the start.
So that's a question I have for you, Irie, is that basically you're able to have stuff that can get recycled.
Mhm.
Right. It's not like you're zero waste because you're going to create packaging and stuff, but as long as that stuff's recyclable, then it works. And what's in your jar is the things like those receipts that couldn't be recycled.
Yeah, and I try to avoid recycling as much as possible, just because there's a lot of things I've read and a lot of controversy that I really don't know. Like I'm pulled in 2 directions, like recycling, but what if it's not actually getting recycled, but recycling? So I try to refuse a lot of it. I really only buy plastic bags if they've got a Ziploc and I can use it for like putting veggies in and freezing it, or putting snacks in and using it as a Ziploc for camping, keeping things dry or whatever. But sometimes, yeah, there's definitely things that I do have to recycle. I think I do a recycling trip once every 3 months, maybe. Drop off all my plastics and cans and stuff.
And what about buying new things? Do you just totally avoid new things? So you know,
Um,
we're a commercialist society, and we all want new things here and there. So what is the challenge there? Like Izzy's mentioned previous on our call, you get packaging and everything. So is I mean, that for all this stuff you have to sacrifice, and is that something you've sacrificed?
definitely buying less than before, especially since I'm on a bit of a budget, which helps that addiction. But no, like looking into companies, like you were saying, Aritzia does a really good job of like paper, and buying local as well has really helped and cut down on like shipping costs and stuff like that. Or when I'm in the city, if I really need something from MEC or something, I'll go in there instead of trying to order it online. So just like prioritizing, if I'm going to the city, I'm going to do everything in one day. Or if I'm going to this place and I know that they've got that, I'll do everything in one day. But definitely every once in a while, there's I'll get something and there'll be plastic in it, and I'll like put that on my list of maybe don't buy that again, or from that specific company. I have emailed companies in the past asking about like, please don't put packaging next time, or is this possible not to put packaging? And some are super great about it, and some don't often respond, which is understandable because they're big companies. But it definitely helps. Being on a budget helps that, I think, a little bit more than sometimes zero waste. Pill containers. I'm not sure about pill containers actually. I know I've had like vitamin containers that I've used in the past, and now I just put like you go to NATA in Vancouver. I don't think they're doing this with COVID at the moment, but you can take them down and they'll fill them with like pepper or salt or all these spices. So I got a bunch of little vitamin C containers with like pepper and salt and all of those, which then I just transfer to jars and save those containers again to use. Yeah, normally just reusing them. Could you share some of your favorite recipes that came? Ooh, my first and foremost favorite recipe is this granola bar recipe that I got. And it's so simple. It's, I think, a cup of dates, and you shred them in the blender and make them all like pasty. And then you do a 1/4 cup of peanut butter, and I normally use Fatso because I'm addicted to it. And then a 1/4 cup of maple syrup, and you mix it in a pot and get it all hot and mixed. Then you put it in a bowl with a 1.5 cups of oats, and then I normally add cinnamon and nuts and cranberries and like bulk it up big time. And then you put it in the fridge for 20 minutes, I think, and cut it up. And that's like, I probably make those once a week, once every 2 weeks. I just go through them so quick. There's also lots of good chocolate recipes online that are super easy, and you can get all the ingredients from zero waste stores, or even if you've got, I forget if it's a Safeway or a Save on Foods, but they've got like those big walls of plastic bins with like the flour and the cocoa butter and all those, and you can go in and take your own bags actually and just scoop all of it in and write down the number on your hand or on the bag or whatever and take it to the counter. So those like Save On and Safeway are like their own little zero waste sections actually, which is pretty good. Any chance you could send that girl?
Yeah, we'll get Pia, we'll get that put on the Facebook page. We'll get it from her, and we'll put the recipe on the Facebook page.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely my favorite for backcountry. I'll take an entire bag of those.
Yeah, that's going to be my takeaway from this, is that I should be making more of my own energy snacks because I eat a lot.
Sometimes it's hard with time. You got to find like an hour out of your day to set to like making snacks, but I'm a huge snack person, so that's my favorite part of the day, is just making snacks.
Yeah, and I think your points before is that, yeah, you have to put in more time, you have to put in more effort, but inevitably when you're eating it, you're more satisfied because you've put the time in and the effort, so that the rewards are actually better. But like everything, you have to invest the time and the effort to get those rewards. But
for sure. If anything, being zero waste has made me better at time management. Make a list of throughout the week, what do I need to get? What do I need to make in order to not be hangry? But yeah, snacks are a very big part of that.
one of my questions is, so I ran into Irie at Splitsburger Grill in Whistler a couple weeks ago. And when you work at a place like that, are you also, I mean, just through your own story, I'm sure you're kind of inspiring them to try to figure out how to be better. But do you think that they're like, can you help the businesses you're working in too to try to figure it out a bit?
So actually, somebody asked me that when I first started my project, because I've been working at Splits since I was like 16, 15, maybe, long time. But they used to wrap all of their burgers in foil and then put them on a checkered piece of paper and then on the plate. And neither the checkered paper nor the aluminum foil were compostable. And I remember when I started my project, my eyes were, it's like I was putting glasses on or something. My bosses probably thought I was the most annoying person ever. Every time I'd come in, I'd bring my own little bucket for the compost. And sometimes I'd forget it and it would end up stinking really bad and I'd have to take it out the next day. But eventually, after I'd been doing my own compost there, they got a compost system. So they bought their own bags. And then I was like, okay, well, I really don't want to wrap anything in foil anymore. This is ridiculous. I'm not going to do it. They're like, okay. If you can find an alternative, we'll do it. So I think I spent like 3 days researching compostable checkered papers because that was like the splits thing, was the checkered paper, the diner kind of look.
I remember it.
And we figured out a way to get a hot plate so that the burgers stayed warm, even if they weren't in the foil. Got the compostable boxes for takeout instead of the foil. I think there's still foil for some things. Like if you get a wrap to go, it'll come in foil. If you get a hot dog to go, it'll come in foil. And that's about it now. But yeah, now everything is on the compostable checkered papers. It's on the, when you take it to go now, it's in the boxes, the compostable boxes instead of the foil, which is super awesome. And even sometimes I think I've had maybe 3 people come in and bring their own containers, which is super cool. And I always love that. I find it amazing because I always try to bring my own container when I get it to go as well. But yeah, even just refusing gloves, because I went online and did some research about gloves in a kitchen, and it's more of a visual thing. Like when you've got, if you wash your hands instead of using gloves, you're more likely to wash your hands more times throughout the day than switching your gloves over because you can feel it. So yeah, I was able to eliminate a few things, but I had to be pretty naggy about it, which I think probably annoyed a lot of people.
Well, I mean, to create change, you have to make a bit of noise.
Exactly. Yeah, every single day. What has been the most successful approach? Greg, do you want to start on Joseph?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think especially now it's the environment for change. Like every company knows that they need to be able to have it say on their tag that they're doing better. And I think it's just the whole mindset's changing. And for me, I mean, the companies that I thought would be slower are actually advancing quicker. Like Solomon's, all of a sudden, a bunch of their stuff it's built with recycled stuff, and their tabs are better. And what's neat is that, talking with our last meeting with Solomon, is that once they put it out to the company, to all their new employees, like, hey, we need people to help us evolve this, that there's a huge motivation amongst all the younger people that they want to be part of that change and make it happen. And I think it's just happening. And I mean, one of the things, much like Irie was saying, is the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So you just got to keep harping on them. And it sucks a bit because you don't want to be that person, but to create change, we kind of have to bring up that topic all the time. But yeah, I mean, it's just happening, and to show that consumers also want to buy from companies that are doing better, I think is key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I think it's really inspiring that you like made that change at work. And I think it shows how we can all be kind of environmentalists no matter what line of work we're in, or pushing sustainability. And I think that, yeah, if we're all kind of pushing on the inside of our own jobs, we can have a big impact with the companies that we work for, whether small or large, and even if it's just in your own department. So that's really cool. Good job.
Thank you.
I remember when you first did this chat, I can't remember where we were, and you talked about how the transition within your family and like some of the challenges that you faced, kind of like convincing them to get on board, and then the changes that were made in your household. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. I remember when I first started getting really into it, I was like super naggy, and I set up this huge, we'd already had a bunch of different bins for all the different recycling and all of that, but because of how much compost I was making as well with being zero waste and eating lots of fruits and veggies because they didn't come in all those plastics and stuff, I switched over the compost bin with the garbage bin because the garbage bin was bigger at the time. And I labeled it, and I put a bunch of little written notes that said, like, are you sure that goes here? Or like just labeled every single thing. So the plastic bags were here, and the bottles were here, and the paper, and the everything. And even at school, I used to, when people would put things in the garbage, like a glass bottle, I was like, whoa, that definitely does not go there. And I'd like reach in and grab it, or I'd ask them politely to like, please don't put that in there. Recycling bin is right next to there. Like, it's not that hard for you to switch over, but and then after that, it was cool because kids started asking me, oh, which bin does this go in? Where should I put it? And same with at home. And even my little brother called me out once. I think I went to throw an apple core outside because we didn't have a compost bag or something. He's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You say that, you put that in the compost. It's like, an apple can be composted. And he's like, no, you got to say that. You got to put that in the compost, Irie. This is like big things. So sometimes even I'd get called out by my siblings, which I actually kind of thought was pretty cool. But yeah, just like nagging a little bit all the time. And then after a few months, became kind of routine in the house to compost goes here and garbage goes here. And then when people came over, they'd be like, oh, where does this go? And hearing my little brother or my older sister like tell their friends, oh yeah, that bottle goes here and that goes in the garbage. I was like the proudest person ever because I just put all this information into them, and it kind of finally paid off, I guess. Just telling everybody what to do all the time. But yeah, I'm sure my family can attest to that I was pretty annoying the first little bit.
I'm sure they're all super happy that they've also changed and evolved with you. So
Maybe.
Dave Schwartz, you seem to have a question. Your hand's up. I see your little hand. You have a question? Oh.
Yeah, thanks. So I was wondering, like, I recently switched to soy milk away from dairy milk because of the higher carbon footprint of the cattle. But then I realized that the Fraser Valley milk all comes in reusable glass bottles, and all the soy milk comes in the single-use like Tetra Pak style things. Now I'm like kind of it's a bit of a pickle, which is better. So I guess my question would be, do you know where to find like zero waste soy milk, and also like what do you think I should do?
That's a great question. I'm not 100% sure. I think Nada might have some alternative milks to regular dairy milk. They definitely have a huge variety of different milks in glass jars. I know every time I go in there, they've got the little labels. I don't know if they have soy milk. I think they might have oat milk actually. Yeah, I'm not a huge soy milk drinker, so I'm not 100% sure, but I would definitely, if you go onto Nada's website or even the soap dispensary's website, I think they make their own oat milk in-house as well. I'm not too sure about soy milk, but it'd definitely be worth a shot to look those two up, if that helps with your question at all.
Yeah, I think, David, everything's got a positive and a negative side, and that's the challenge with all of this, is making your choices and then recognizing that nothing's perfect. I continue to drink milk, but it's all in glass bottles. We get it delivered. It's local. Maybe it's not as good as soy, but if the soy is also being grown really far away and transported, and then those Tetra Paks, it's tough to say. There is no right, but it's just trying to do your best. So yeah, I've committed to this glass bottles because I feel like it's local and the milk's coming from within 100 kilometers. They're not great because cows like to poop a lot of methane into the environment, but I don't know.
I find I run into that a lot with food, like lately, because I was so committed to, sustainable agriculture and trying to buy organic as much as possible before. But now sometimes the organic items that I want to buy are more packaged than the non-organic items. So I'm like in the grocery store trying to decide which is the lesser of two evils, It's hard.
Definitely difficult because most of the organic stuff has that huge sticker that wraps around. Like, I know organic bananas have that huge sticker that wraps all around that says organic, and same with avocados and oranges and all of that stuff. It's a little bit difficult.
Yeah, I think that's what we're all realizing during this month's challenge is it's difficult. I mean, the bags we're all going to have at the end of the month is going to be obvious that it's a challenge. And that's only the front stuff too. We don't get all the plastic that's happening in the behind the scenes.
For sure. But I mean, everything, every little thing counts. As long as you're like focusing on what you're doing as opposed to what other people are doing. I find like it's so easy to be like, well, that person doesn't drive a Tesla, so they are not really doing that much for the environment. I've definitely had people come after me about that. But yeah, I think as long as you're doing whatever feels right for you to keep doing and keep questioning and keep asking questions and researching, and it's whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, I like what you said about not judging off others either. Just do your own thing, make your own choices, and hopefully the mindset continues to evolve to more and more people.
Exactly. Progress over perfection. Yeah, Izzy, I love that.
Yeah, my dad, he used to throw, he had a broken bowl in his hand, and my brother's a big environmentalist. So I'm trying to be an environmentalist, and it was broken, and he was on the dock, and he just threw it in the water to have it sink. And he's like, "Oh, that'll make a home for the crab." And I was just like, "Oh no." But I mean, he's now evolving too, but we're all, doesn't matter where you're at, we can all be a bit better.
It's one of those things too, sometimes I have to remind myself that because I've done so much research, I have a bit more knowledge than some people who haven't done as much research. So a lot of the time people do things not because they're trying to make it worse, just that they don't know the difference. So like putting compostables in the garbage creates methane instead of CO2 and oxygen. So it's like, I don't even know the number. It's a huge amount times worse for the greenhouse gases and all of that. But if you don't know that, then it's hard to distinguish between compost and garbage. I have to remind myself of that often when I see people put things in certain places, that some because they're trying to destroy this planet or all of these nature that we love so much. It's just that they may not know the difference or may not know better. Which is why this stuff is so great, because we can have a good conversation about it and people can share their alternatives and ask questions.
Yeah, we can all become a little better.
Exactly.
That's what I was thinking too. If anybody, let's continue the conversation on the Facebook page. If anybody has any new tips, we're definitely going to get Irie's recipes here. And yeah, Kevin's asking for plant milk recipes. Who knows? Maybe you can get just soybeans, soak them overnight, and make your own soy milk. I don't even know.
That'd be pretty cool. I'm sure you could. There's so many places, even coffee shops in Vancouver I've been, they all make their own oat milk. I think that's a pretty simple one, but I'm sure soy milk has something like that. The energy bar recipes. Yeah,
yeah. That's some homework for you. Oh, nice. Yeah, they're gonna be endless. Does anybody else have any questions? Well, we've got Irie here. Apart from being inspired and trying to be better, got her on the mic here. A minute. Any closing words? Irie, you wanna got anything to say before we adjourn tonight's chat?
I guess I would just say, like, when you think about recycling as a kid, you hear like reduce, reuse, recycle, and we focus so hard on the recycle bit. But I find the reduce and the reuse can actually be so good, like using Ziploc bags from, I don't know, craisins from the grocery store and putting your fruits in there and then freezing them, like reusing the bag, or reducing making your own granola bars and reducing the waste from that if you've got time some days. Like, I guess just remembering the whole triangle that is reduce, reuse, recycle sometimes is definitely a helpful back of the mind trick, especially when grocery shopping, and just doing whatever you can to help, whether that's making your own granola bars one week and then never again if you don't want to. At least just trying it out just to see.
Yeah, and I think that triangle, I mean, we talked about it at the start of this chat when nobody was here, but the refuse part, which is what you've really done to make your changes, is what it's kind of like the triangles here, and then the refuse is like its own thing that just kind of doesn't even go there, which is really important. Making those personal choices it's massive, but I mean, like you said, there seems to be enough rewards for it all that it's worth it. So thanks for inspiring